feel that we Arabs should get a box on the census form?
We should, of course.
Why?
Because we're different, we're not white.
Do I really exist? You know, I don't see myself here, you know, what's going on, what's the story? So he's like, you know, just put white, you know, you guys are white. I'm like, oh, I'm not. My skin is a little darker.
Last time I did it, I remember I put other and put Arab, but I don't know, nobody probably will look at it, but that's what
I bet you they did look at it. I bet you have a file in the FBI now.
If we're going to be treated as a different race, then I would expect to be classified as a different race.
Fiji has a box, Samoa, Guam, Philippines.
I know what they are sometimes.
Yeah.
At one time, you know, I want to make sure that I am one of the society and I'm not something different than the society. So it was critical to me to be one of them.
Do you feel white?
I mean, I haven't tanned in a while, so yeah, most of the time I do.
All right, thank you. How would it make you feel if you finally saw an Arab box?
That would be beautiful.
Yeah, be nice, huh? So you agree, we're not white?
We're brown.
How many people are from Dearborn? By round of applause. No, it's not a class. You can clap. Dearborn. I didn't grow up here. I grew up around all white people, and I knew that I was a little different. You know, my dad spoke funny. We smelled like garlic. We ate leaves from the backyard. You know. I knew. But it was a weird kind of different. It was an okay kind of different. It was a cool kind of different. You know, food, accents, no big deal.
Well, at one level, it's an issue of identity, right? Because everybody who fills out that census form is asking themselves, where do I belong?
The Arab American community is a growing community in the United States and in Michigan and in Dearborn, where I live and work. And so it is very important that this community is recognized under our law and gets all the protections that its individuals deserve.
I believe the fact that we don't have a box stems from the fact that the federal government really doesn't know what it's doing, which happens most of the time.
If you don't have a box, that becomes an interesting political question. Then you don't count.
Being itemized on the census, I think it is essential.
The box is about being counted. The box is about if there's an act of discrimination, you have a box that says why you're discriminated against. That's what the box is about.
There's a box there that says Native American. Well, it should say Native American, but it says American Indian. And I thought you're supposed to say Native American. I didn't know you're supposed to say American Indian. I thought that was politically incorrect. But I think I know why they write American Indian. They don't want to confuse too many people. Like I think Sarah Palin thinks that she's a Native American.
You're not counted in the way that the nation gathers statistics. You're not counted in the way that the nation makes policy.
If the federal government could put together lists and throw names and Arab American names and names of that sound Arab or sound Muslims on a list, then they can sure count how many Arabs there are in the country.
In many ways, you're disenfranchised in a very ironic way where you become invisible.
A separate box for us is an opportunity for the community to identify itself, to publicly come out as a community that's cohesive, that has a relatively large number, bigger than a lot of people think we are.
It's important because it identifies us in this world, you know, in the nation of immigrants.
There's even a box, the boxes that say Chinese, Filipino, Vietnamese, Japanese, Korean, which sounds like the coolest food court ever. But that box was not for me, so I moved on. Now there's a box that says Black, African American, or Negro. I almost checked this box because Arabs are just like black people. We're the same. We get profiled. We get blamed for stuff that we don't do. We scare the hell out of white people. We have big families, lots of cousins, Sunday dinner, you know, we do all that kind of stuff. Like, your family's really big, right? Like, the way you know you're one of us is if your family's so big that you're older than your uncle. You know what I mean? If you ever took your uncle to Chuck E. Cheese, you might be one of us.
It doesn't have Middle Eastern, so it have the others, and I think we put the others.
They don't have Arab American on there, so there's nothing to check.
I think I put white, non-Hispanic.
I'll check off the white, but then I'll handwrite Arab American in there actually.
You either classify all or you don't classify.
I agree.
Why, for example, everyone is listed, but I'm not listed?
We have a race.
We have a race.
That consists of all religions, Jews, Muslims, and Christians. Everybody.
It's like clicking I accept the iTunes conditions. You just pass it up. You don't think about it anymore.
It is a silly situation that we are in. We are clearly a minority. We have our own distinct culture. We have our own distinct food. We have our own distinct history, language. We have all the factors that it takes to encompass as a minority. We are going through discrimination.
They've treated us as a minority. They've vilified with free range, without having, to kind of make the material, contributions and obligations that come with acknowledging a community as being a minority.
There's no question that Arab Americans face significant obstacles in a lot of different areas, right? Our relationship to the government is highly problematic. This country's immigration policies towards Arab Americans are extremely problematic. We have a terrible problem with national security, with political representation. We have issues with racial prejudice.
We do not melt. I'm against melting, the so-called melting pot. But maybe we should be a salad bowl, preserve our taste and culture and stuff like this, but be in the mix. So far, we have not seen us mixing with the other communities, and this is probably the biggest hurdle that we're facing. We are like a spot of oil in the ocean, just moving around.
Then there's two choices left. There's one box that says white, and another box that says other, but it doesn't even really say other. Look at it. It says some other race. Kind of like, we don't give a, we don't care what you are. Just put it in here. If you put in some other race, and you put in an Arab country, Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, do you know what the US government does with that form? They put it with the white people.
Well, the reason Arab Americans are classified as white, goes very far deep and back in history. There was a law in place in the United States called the Naturalization Law of 1790, which effectively mandated that citizens had to be white.
There was a big push from all ethnic communities to be reclassified as white. A Japanese American went before a judge and said, look at my skin, I'm clearly white, I should be classified as white. The judge said no. South Asian American who came and said, okay, well if you're defining white by anthropological definitions, our roots are Indo-European, we should be classified as white. The judge said no.
Arab Americans started coming here 100 years ago at least. They came originally as strays, someone used that term. As an individual would come, and then after a while somebody would contact his cousin and say, it's okay here, I'll find you a job, come stay with me. Finally they decide they want some women. And so they would either bring out some girls from the village or they'd marry a local girl. But at a certain point you began to have churches, and most of them were Christians in those early days. You would have churches and community centers.
Syrians, like a whole range of different other immigrants, petitioned for whiteness.
There were a few legal cases, mostly between 1909 and 1915, that dealt with the legal classifications of Syrians at that time.
Essentially, the Arab community fought to become white.
The OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, in 1977 determined white and defined white was a person of European, Middle Eastern, and North African descent. Currently, we're considered white, full stop.
It's ironic because here we are 60 to 70 years later trying to reverse the decisions of our ancestors. I think besides the FBI watch lists, I don't think the United States government has an accurate idea of how many Arab Americans there are.
The Census Bureau thinks that there are about 1.7 or 1.8 million Arab Americans.
The estimate is 3.5 million, but it's an estimate because the only way that we could know is through census data.
Wayne State University had statistics that says that in Michigan we're about 120,000, 130,000. Numbers are just unbelievably off.
There's the old saying that demography is destiny. And the demographics in this country are changing radically. And there's a way in which the sort of narrow vision of who's in this country and who's invisible and who is not is lagging so far behind the times. So at the same time that the demography is raising like a wave and changing substantially the sort of composition and character of what it means to be an American and who we are, the census, like an ostrich, has their head buried in the sand and is saying, we're backward looking.
We deserve our own box. I want to start a rally right here today in Dearborn, Michigan. We're not white. Because listen, I grew up with white people. We are different. We are different. We are really different. We are so different. For instance, did you know if you go to your white friend's house and his mom asks you if you're hungry, if you say no, she actually doesn't bring you anything to eat. Did you know that? And they start eating around you. Well, you said you weren't hungry. I learned a lot about them. I learned a lot about white people. I learned that if they go to the grocery store, they come home, they put away their groceries, then they take their bags and they throw them away. Not in my house. Not in my house. In my house, there was a bag full of bags. It goes in a little space between the refrigerator and the wall. My mom just stuffs it in there like that. We're just different. Do you think we're white?
No.
Do you have any Arab friends?
I do.
Yeah. Do you think they're white?
No, I don't think. I also think they don't think they're white. Either.
Yeah. Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think we're white?
Well, do you? I don't.
Do you know any Arabs?
I do.
Do they strike you as white?
I'm gonna say no.
No.
No. Why not?
Because they're not.
Do you guys have any Arab friends? Yeah. Do you think that they're white?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
The last thing. I mean, you do look white. I would assume you're white.
Right, by my look.
Yeah.
Right? But once people hear our names, you know,
Yeah.
we're not white anymore.
I mean, it's whatever they identify as.
Do you see them as white?
Because they don't identify as white, so I don't think of them in that way.
Do you have any Arab friends?
I do.
Do you think they're white?
Not at all.
Now, seriously, you don't think we're white, right?
When you give us the label as white, when you say that this community is white, you are stripping us of our identity. You're telling us that we've shared the same history as other quote-unquote white people in this country.
If we're going to be counting boxes, then we should be liberally distributing boxes in ways that whatever list we have in the census is going to adequately reflect the identities in which people find themselves in. When you don't see your identity reflected in the choices that are there, there's a not too subtle message that you don't have a place in this country.
I think a white guy walks into a store, gets $1 off something, I think he thinks he got a deal. Doesn't work like that with us. We're a little bit different, you know? I've seen my dad walk into a store. How much you want for that? $20? $5. I'll give you $5. We don't think anybody should be able to make money. I remember when I was a kid, I went to go get a shirt for school with my dad, and I walked into the store. I said, Bob, I like this shirt. He said, how much? White people, this is Arabic for how much? 2 hands, it's a dance move. 1 hand, it's how much? He said, how much is it? I said, $20. Then I have the dad who feels the fabric. Do you have the dad that feels the fabric? My dad starts feeling the fabric. He goes, this is very good fabric. I'm like, you grew up in a refugee camp, okay? I know you don't know what fabric feels like. Then he said the same thing I think every Arab dad says. Do you know how much it cost them to make this shirt? $3, maybe $4. So let's give them $5. Said, this is Macy's. You know, I don't think you can do that here. We just do things different.
We're not white, so we cannot be treated like white, and we're not treated like white in the eyes of the government.
You're consistently told through political law enforcement processes, you are different, you are a threat, you are not like us, you are not white. Right? And then at the very time when you're there to try to claim your own sense of self-identity, right? Your own sense of community, your own sense of belonging, you're also denied that right as well.
I know I look white, I know. But in my heart, I know that I'm Arab. So it doesn't matter that I look white to me. Because I look at these boxes and these options and I'm like, I'm none. I'm none. That's not very nice.
Our women are different. Our women are our moms. I love you, but you're exaggerate a little bit. You know what I mean? Just a little bit. You know? Have you ever met this Arab mom before? Well, Khalto, what does your son do? Oh, my son? My son is a doctor. Oh, okay, what's his specialty? Well, he does not have a specialty yet. Okay, where does he go to medical school? Well, he does not go to medical school yet. He's 7, but he's gonna be a doctor one day. You feel white?
No, I always put Asian.
You're not Asian.
Yeah, but I'm not about to do affirmative action. I'm not white.
I put white. I put white.
You put white?
I put white.
Why?
Because they told me to.
Who told you to?
No, I don't listen to that. No.
When I was applying to college, there's always the census information that they ask you for, the demographics.
Do you feel white?
Not really, no. Are you male or female? Then after that part's pretty simple.
Do you feel white?
No. But once I look to the race or ethnicity area, there is white, which I'm definitely not.
Do you feel white?
No.
Why?
Because I'm not.
I mean, a lot of people always say that, oh, you look really white.
But you look white.
Yeah, I look white. I'm Arab. I'm not white.
And I'm not treated like a white person. I don't have privileges that other white people have.
Right, when you go on the plane, they don't think you're white. Do you think white people really think you're white?
No. No. Not at all.
If there was a box that said Arab on the census form, would you check it?
Absolutely.
Why don't you feel white?
Because that's not what I am. We're not white.
Do you feel white?
Sometimes. When I'm around black people, I feel white.
All right, when you're around black people,
white.
how do you feel when you're around white people?
Black.
Whenever I walk into any Arab event, the first thing they do is they sing the national anthem. Now, I love America, I really do. But it always makes me feel a little weird. Because I go to other events, I go to black events, Latino events, they never sing the national anthem. But we sing it, loud. And it's because we're scared. We are scared. The biggest fear we have is being seen as unpatriotic. We do not want to end up on Fox News. We are scared. I remember like a year ago, I went to an event in Dearborn, 1,000 Arabs standing in a room, and they bring up this nice Arab American girl. She starts singing the national anthem. And all these Arabs are standing up there and singing the national anthem, and they have no idea what they're saying. English is like their 5th language.
Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming.
They have no idea. The only line they know is, and the bombs bursting in air. It's the only part they know. But we sing it because we're scared. And we're scared because we watch the news.
In Lebanon, in Sudan, India, and the Palestinian territories, Tunisia, Yemen, and of course Egypt, violence and destruction to embassies, American schools, even fast food restaurants, all of this anger exploding from the Arab world over an amateur hour video clip posted on the internet.
I mean, let's face it, many, if not most, Arabs probably support what bin Laden was trying to do in terms of killing Americans and so on.
We're in the news all the time. And I watch the news like a good Arab, I really do. Remember when that congresswoman got shot in Arizona?
We are cutting into our program with some breaking news. We're being told by various sources, both NPR as well as a local Tucson newspaper, that Arizona Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords has been shot.
And I did what every Arab was doing that day when they were watching the news. Please don't be Arab. Please don't be Arab. And it wasn't. It was a crazy white guy. But before they said it was a crazy white guy, they came out with 2 news reports that let me know for sure that it was not an Arab. Okay, first of all, they said the suspect was still alive. It's not the way we operate. Let me tell you how I really knew. How I really knew is they came out and said when they arrested the suspect, he was not talking. See, we don't know how to not talk. That's not the way we operate. We will tell you why we did it while you're arresting us. You know, it's because the Israelis are occupying. We tell you immediately. And then I was watching the news a few months later when that stuff happened in Norway. Remember in Norway, the guy blew up the building and then he killed like 70 people on the island? And I was watching news that day.
Paul, no claim of responsibility. If it's not Islamic militants, if it's not Al-Qaeda inspired, who is it?
Well, the working assumption right now is that it probably is something Al-Qaeda inspired, some jihadist terrorism.
Please don't be Arab. And it wasn't, it was a crazy white guy. But before they said it was a crazy white guy, CNN ran a news report. And they said, this explosion does not seem to have any signs of Islamic radicalism. And I listened to that and I said, how does an explosion have a sign of Islamic radicalism? Does it blow up different? Does it make a different sound? Does it make a little crescent in the sky? Does it smell like garlic? How the hell does an explosion? I was watching the elections in 2008. John McCain was running a town hall meeting, and some white woman, very nice white woman, seemed very nice, they all do, walks up to the microphone and says, I don't trust Barack Obama.
I can't trust Obama. I have read about him, and he's an Arab. He is not.
No, ma'am.
No?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. He's a decent family man.
But I love America. I do. I do. But it's hard. Name a famous black person.
Oh, Will Smith.
Will Smith.
Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant.
Barack Obama. Obama. Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
Jamie Foxx.
Kanye West.
Muhammad Ali. Chris Tucker.
Chris Rock.
I win! Because my guy's older. Wait, is this a competition?
It's not really a competition.
Name a famous Latino person.
Jennifer Lopez.
Jennifer Lopez.
Jennifer Lopez.
Georgia Lopez.
Jennifer Lopez. Selena Gomez.
That lady on the Supreme Court.
Sonia Sotomayor.
Enrique Iglesias.
Name a famous Asian.
Lucy Liu. Margaret Cho.
Yao Ming.
Jet Li.
Jackie Chan.
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 Jackie Chan. I win. Are you talking like Americans? Lucy Liu.
Getting all specific because it's like her people.
Name a famous Arab.
Oh, jeez.
I
don't know.
Wait. I don't know.
Damn.
The guy that's in I don't think he's Arab. No, the guy that's I know. Are you talking about the movie?
That one guy.
Famous? I don't know. Wait for it. How many Arab movies are there? Do the Kardashians count as Arab?
The guy from Borat.
The guy from Borat? He's not Arab. He's from Kazakhstan.
Oh, I don't know.
The Boom, the Big Bang. Big Bang Theory? Yeah.
He's Indian.
He's Indian. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know.
Aladdin. That's a cartoon.
I don't know. I don't want to say something offensive.
I don't want to say that. No.
I mean, that's not the first name I want to think of.
Osama bin Laden.
Osama bin Laden.
Saddam Hussein.
Is Muammar Gaddafi Arab?
Yes, he was.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
You.
Maybe one day, but not yet.
When 9/11 happened,
new stereotypes, new caricatures didn't arise. They were redeployed. These are ideas and images of Arabs that this country has had stored in their cupboards for centuries.
Even to say that, okay, well, only 0.0001% of Arab Americans have any kind of violent extremist inclinations. Great, you're acknowledging that the community isn't all terrorists, but you're still framing the conversation about the community in terms of terrorism.
The government are the biggest discriminator against Arabs. The US government that's supposed to protect us.
We're always vulnerable to what's happening abroad. There's a direct nexus, whether it's good, in the case of the Arab Spring, but primarily when it's bad, which has been the case. And that definitely shapes how the public perceives us. We're perpetually foreign, regardless of how long we've been in the States, by virtue of us being Arab.
I remember one of my students who was born in Syria. She said after September 11th, she was like 11 at the time, her father called her in and she said, from now on, you will never again describe yourself as an Arab.
We were being racialized and heavily, not only racialized, but vilified in a fashion that no other community has experienced in a long time, in my opinion. You had every branch of government effectively hunting you down.
I remember right after 9/11, I was getting ready to fly, 3 months after 9/11. And so I walked into the airport. I walked up to the ticket counter, gave her my confirmation. She looked at me, she looked at my name, she looked at me, she looked at the ticket, and she said, "Where are you flying today?" Now, she knew where I was flying. And I have learned from a lot of experience in my life now that when a woman asks you a question that she already knows the answer to, that this is very bad. So I said Los Angeles. And she said, "Why are you flying to Los Angeles?" I said, "I'm going to be on a TV show." She said, "Are you famous?" I said, "I guess not." She gave me my ticket and she said, "Okay, sir, you can go right over there. There might be some extra security." I walked through the metal detector, it didn't go off. I was so happy. Then a female security guard looked at me and in a very loud voice yelled out, "Male possible!" And I was confused. I said, "Male, definitely." I don't know what you're talking about. Male, for sure.
We do live in this funny place where we're visibly invisible, right? I mean, if you look at post-September 11th, where the government basically asked for all immigrants who came from, Morocco, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, the UAE, Oman, and North Korea.
By virtue of us being legal white, we're still invisible, legally speaking. The government is not responsible for making any kind of formal acknowledgement that they have to apologize to us for what happened pre and post 9/11. But if you acknowledge and make a legal admission that these individuals are people of color, it comes with certain responsibilities that the government is not willing to make.
They can't just say people from the Arab world, right? Or Arabs, because that designation doesn't exist to them. It's obvious what they're asking for. They're trying to find the Arabs and the Muslims and the North Koreans.
So I get on the plane. Now, I was flying out to this TV show, so they were flying me first class. It was awesome. Now, for those of you who don't know, when you do fly first class, you get on the plane, and immediately you become friends with everybody else in first class, because everybody is friends there. They give you stuff to drink at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's awesome. I was sitting there. There was a white guy sitting next to me. We were friends. We were talking about sports already. We were talking about all kinds of things. We were watching the other people walking into coach, and we were, like, judging them. It was awesome. And then he says to me, "What's your name?" And I said, "Amer." And he goes, "Wow, that is a really interesting name. Where are you from?" I said, "Michigan." He said, "No, where are you from?" This is what white people say when they want to find out where you're really from. So where are you from? I said, "Oh, from, sorry, from." I apologize. I'm from Palestine. Palestine. And he said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, I didn't say I was a unicorn. I said I'm from Palestine. We're on the news." And right after I said that, two very tall gentlemen, I'll never forget them in my life, one white, one black, in trench coats, walk up to me and they say, "Are you Mr. Zahr?" I said, "Yes." They said, "Can you come with us?" So they took me off the plane. They started asking me questions. Right in the jetway while everybody else was still getting on the plane. And they said, "Mr. Zahr, you look very suspicious today." I said, "Okay, sorry." They finally decided that I was not a terrorist, and they let me back on the plane. Which was really bad because everybody on the plane saw me getting questioned. And so like now I'm the only one who really knows for sure that I'm not a terrorist. I went back to sit down next to this white guy. He will not talk to me anymore. We are not friends. I didn't know what to do. I looked at him and I said, "Oh, say, can you see?"
Not being counted disempowers you and removes your ability to be part of a national dialogue.
So to be able to say to a particular congressman who says something wacky like, "Why aren't we profiling people in Arabian dress?" Real quote, real congressman. If you can come back to that person and say, "Hey, you know, you have 1,000 Arab American constituents in your district that you just offended with that statement," they're less likely to say that kind of thing in the future. And so that's power. That's definitely political power.
The kind of notion of trying to say with a straight face that Arabs are white at the same time you're being taken off airplanes, at the same time that the FBI is tracking what's happening within mosques, at the same time where we're creating all sorts of important political, legal, law enforcement distinctions based upon that status, and then to deny that status at the very same time when it comes for you to be checking a box and filling in a census form as an American, right, that is then fed into a whole range of social political processes that have real consequences, it's absurd.
We love America. We do. But it's hard sometimes. Do you know what I mean? We are on the news way too much. And it's never nice. But this is our country. And I really like fast internet. So I'm staying. I love America, but it is hard sometimes. Like when I see people from my community being lined up at the airport because one of them was wearing a veil. But I really like free refills. So I'm staying. I love America, but it is hard. It is hard. Because I see them drop bombs on us every day. See, I don't know how to explain it. I can't even make a joke out about this. How do you explain to somebody that you live in a country and you love a country that is bombing your homeland every day? I mean, we're obviously schizophrenic. There's something wrong with us. But we stay. Because there's a dollar menu. And I love the dollar menu. I'm not going anywhere.
About a decade ago, we had an event in Dearborn, and there were prominent people from around the country who were here. And I remember standing over the lunch table, two people, one insisting that she is white, and one insisting that he is not white, both Arabs. And they just debated this forever.
Being boxed in as legally white, effectively compels us to, I call it overcompensation complex.
I'm lighter skinned than many people who are definitely objectively white, if you can call anyone objectively white.
When I go around the university bookstore, I'm not followed. They're not expecting me to steal a sweatshirt or a book or whatever. So there's some level, I believe, that they're thinking, oh, she's white. If I go to the airport, I'm not white anymore, right? Like, oh my gosh, that name. And then if I use my passport, oh, she was born in Beirut. You know, Beirut in the 1970s. Oh my heavens, she's a terrorist.
Even though I blend in well, right? I speak with a casual Californian accent that I've picked up relatively recently. I don't have the same historical privileges. I don't have the same kind of cultural context that white Americans, as we traditionally define them, have.
When people say to me, oh, are you, you know, where are you from, right? Like, you know, you always make this joke, where are you from? You know, it's like an essay for me. I have an essay to reply to that. I have to say, what do you mean? Do you mean where was I born? Do you mean where did I grow up? Do you mean where does my mother live? Where do I live? You know, I mean, you know, it really becomes this like, you know, notebook that has to come out. So I tend to just turn it back to them and say, well, where are you from?
I tried to be a good little white kid. I really did. One time I was in my room and my dad just walked into my room. And I said what any good white kid would say. Get out of my room! My dad said, what? What did you say? I said, this is my room. I want my privacy. Get out! He said, oh, let me explain something to you. You don't have a room. Okay, I let you stay here so that you don't die. That's all.
There are members of the community who do want to stay white, who want to keep the white classification. I personally believe those members of the community are happy with the status quo. Those members of the community are happy with what being white has dealt to them. But there is a newer generation of Arab Americans, the second wave of immigrants and the third wave of immigrants that have come here in the 1970s and 80s that are more adept and more in a way want the Arab identity and want to keep and want to bring back the box and rid of the white designation.
And frankly, the folks who are kind of upset about being separate, who are upset about being outed as being Arab because they're so comfortable in the white identity, fine, check the white box. The important thing is we're trying to reach out to these communities that are underserved, these communities that are underprivileged, the ones that we need to reach out to that we can't find.
To have a box to check it on the census for our community is important, because this way you can pass on your heritage and your culture to your future generation. You don't need to go into hiding.
Discrimination is rampant against Arabs and Muslims, and it is because there is no box.
When I was in the 7th grade, I decided that I was going to run for class president. And we made 500 photocopies of my face. We put them all around the school. There was only 100 people in the school, but whatever, didn't matter. And that night, America bombed Iraq. So I came into school the next day, and somebody had written on one of my posters, "Go home, terrorists." So I took that poster and I gave it to my favorite teacher. And I was really upset. And I said, what are you going to do about this? And she looked at me, she looked at the poster, and she looked at me, and she said, there's nothing we're going to do. And that's when I knew that us being different was different than anyone else being different. Because if I was Latino, there would have been a seminar the next day. If I was black, Al Sharpton would have been at my school the next day. But I was Arab, so it was okay. See, racism against us is different. See, a white couple walking down the street might cross the street if they see a couple black kids walking towards them because they think those black kids might steal their purse. But they cross the street when they see us walking towards them because they think we might steal their freedom. See, that's different. So we're different in a different way. And so I was upset for like a whole year. And then I got real happy because out came a movie called Aladdin. You remember Aladdin? I was so happy when Aladdin came out. I was like, man, this is awesome. They're making a movie about us. Everybody in the movie is Arab. This is awesome. But then I watched the movie and I got confused. Like, okay, there was Jafar. Remember Jafar? Jafar, we called him Jafar. Tall, skinny, dark skin, brown nose, beard, turban, accent, wants to take over the world. Sound familiar? He was Osama bin Laden before Osama bin Laden was Osama bin Laden. And he was an Arab. Then there was Aladdin. Remember Aladdin? So cute. He didn't have an accent. He wore a little hat, didn't even wear a shirt, wore a vest. Wore cool pants, cool shoes, had a really cool girlfriend. He could sing, I will show you the world. And he was an Arab too. And so I was confused. I was like, who am I? Am I Jafar? Or am I Aladdin? I know I live with Jafar. I know that. But who am I? And see, that's what happens to me. I get confused. Like, you know how they say if you enter a certain situation, you get an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other? That's not what happens to me. What happens to me is I get a really Arab guy on one shoulder and a really, really white guy on the other shoulder. And they fight. Like if I'm at home and I have friends over and they're staying way too late. The white guy says, you should tell them to go home. And the Arab guy says, no, you tell them they can stay as long as they want. They can sleep over for 3 days. It's fine, no problem. Or like if I'm out to dinner and the bill comes, the Arab guy jumps up right away. Pay it! Pay it! Pay the whole thing. Show them how much money you have. Pay cash. And the white guy's like, just had a hamburger. Or if like a really tall, beautiful blonde woman in a bikini walks by. The white guy's like, you should totally go after her. And the Arab guy says, yeah, I agree. I agree, you should go. We're not that different. We're not that different. And so, I love America. I really do. I just wish she'd love me back.
Why did you come to America?
For the dream.
Yeah.
He's an Arab.
Oh,
American.
Tony Shalhoub.
Tony Shalhoub, yeah.
Tony Shalhoub is not an Arab.
Oh, is his name
is.
Shalhoub?
Shalhoub.
How do you say it?
Shalhoub. You say the H.
Shalhoub.
Yeah. Like, you ever watch the show Monk?
Yeah.
He's an Arab American. Tony Shalhoub. But nobody knows that.
Monk.
Isn't Monk awesome?
Oh my God.
He's one of us.
Okay.
Remember Tiffany made that song a long time ago?
Tiffany is not Arab.
She is Arab. She is.
Tiffany?
See, here's the thing.
I think we're alone
That's right.
now. Get out of town.